All right, Max says, welcome back to another episode, guys. Max is saying right now, he's telepathically communicating to us to tell you guys, like, subscribe, and jump over to our blog channel and subscribe. Tell him, Max.
Do it now.
All right, this is episode 321.
I love you.
All right, so today's video is by a channel called Asturico. I always put the original down in the description for you guys if you want to go follow them. It's the weirdest things about living in Europe as an American.
Come here, baby.
So let's see her POV.
You know that feeling when you think that you're prepared for something, but then you're like, well, damn. Yeah, that was me moving back to Europe, Spain to be specific. I thought I had a solid grasp on what life here would be like. I'd lived here before for 2 years. I even had a kid here too. Beautiful historic buildings, yeah. Espresso-fueled afternoons, absolutely. A vague expectation that I'd somehow become effortlessly chic just by stepping off the plane, for sure. But what I wasn't prepared for, the culture shocks. Yes, I'd lived here before, but that was almost 20 years ago. So
Damn.
Did I get it? Yeah, kind of. Did I forget it? Absolutely. It's those tiny everyday moments that has me questioning everything. So let's talk about it. My biggest culture shocks after 2 years in Europe, but really Spain. And yes, I'm absolutely still processing some of them. In the US, if you need a restroom, you just pop into a Starbucks, a gas station, or literally any McDonald's and you can handle your business.
They're starting to change this though. Like, I don't know, it's specifically here in LA, I guess, but like in McDonald's or other places, they'll be locked and they'll be like, you have to go ask the person who works there. And then sometimes, depending on who's working, they'll be like, well, they're only for customers.
They're like, pay up.
Yeah, so this
buy
is kind
a cheeseburger or you're not going.
Yeah, this is kind of shifting a little bit.
I do think that the locks started because homeless people would go.
Yeah,
and that was their way of preventing them. But now it's preventing us from using the restroom.
Yeah, that's true.
But she's saying like sometimes it'll be like a couple cents.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember
like
that in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot, to be honest.
No questions asked. Actually, from what I'm hearing, things are changing quite a bit. But here, using public restrooms often comes with a price tag. You might need to drop 50 cents or even a whole euro just to gain access to the facilities. The first time that this happened, I was near the beach. It looked like a giant advert. I didn't realize that it was a restroom. That was until the door rotated open and somebody came out, and then there it was, the toilet. It seemed clean from where I was perched. I didn't have to go that bad, and I wasn't going to pay to investigate further. I did see toilet paper, and what I've read online is that these toilets are frequently cleaned, and that's a draw for me. In my experience, the free restrooms here generally have something missing. It could be
or they're
the
just nasty.
Toilet paper, the hand soap, a working hand dryer, paper towels. I've actually been conditioned to always carry tissues and hand soap sheets in my purse. The pay-to-pee toilets actually make sense because just like American public restrooms, the regular toilets, they're a gamble. You might walk into a perfectly fine gas station restroom or you might step
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's
Please.
not wrong.
Okay.
Oh,
go
fuck you.
watch one of our vlogs. It was when we were doing the road trip to Oregon.
It wasn't to Oregon. It was coming back from Texas.
Oh,
We were
yeah.
driving,
That's right. So, yeah, please. At the end of it, Linda like had to cover her whole face to go into the gas toilet because the gas station toilet because it smelled so bad. It was so funny. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's really sad because it was the last restroom stop before we got home.
Yeah.
And I was having pretty good luck until then.
Into a scene straight out of a horror movie. So yeah, I've come to accept that the European way is the way I like, and I appreciate the pay-to-pee model. So I want you to picture this. You're walking down a charming street and you stumble across a tiny bakery. It's got handwritten signs and a little old lady at the counter and the best smelling palmeras you've ever experienced in your life. This is an actual small business. Now, in the US, if someone says, I own a small business, there's a solid chance that they're talking about a franchise of some kind. And yes,
this is a good point. You know, this is true. And when we were in Europe, I noticed this, but specifically in Yeah, I guess a little bit in Korea, not as much, but in Japan and Vietnam especially, there are a lot of people with small businesses, and you see them all over. Either they're street food vendors or if they're just like have little
Like actual
shops.
small business.
Yeah, that's a lot, and it kind of contradicts the whole. I hate to bring it into it, but it does contradict the whole like capitalism versus socialism thing, because in those countries do have capitalistic tendencies. Every country does. Okay, except for like maybe a few, but what's interesting though is people have this notion that like under socialistic tendencies, they don't have upward mobility. Like they can't do their own thing. They can't be an entrepreneur. But seeing those countries, people do that. And
I think there's a difference between owning a small business that's like an actual small business in other countries versus growing it into like an empire, which is
of course
the American dream.
Okay,
like,
yeah, I get
not
that.
American dream, but like part of capitalism here and like the draw that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
Whereas I think just sustaining one elsewhere is good enough.
Well, I do think the mindset is different in a lot of those other places. Pretty much, if they can have their own business, like pay for the family a place to live and be comfortable, that's their goal.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
They can sustain.
Yeah.
It's independently owned, but it's still a part of this massive corporate chain. In Europe, especially in Spain, small businesses are actually independent. Yeah. The bakery has been family run for 3 generations. Like the cafe isn't just a part of some larger network of some strategy. Like the bookstore down the street, yeah, it may not have a website, but the owner knows your name after a couple of visits. There's something that's really refreshing about that. My daughter, she really wanted me to talk about this one. Personal space norms in Spain and the US are very different. If you're introverted, adjusting to them can be a big cultural shock. In the States, there's a strict adherence to personal space. Cheek kisses are standard between family and friends here. Even with new acquaintances in social settings, men may also kiss female friends or relatives. Handshakes are more formal or for professional interactions. In the US, it's more about handshakes and brief hugs between friends. Cheek kisses, they're really rare. I mean, they can almost feel overly intimate. That's unless you're in a specific context. Frankly, Americans might feel startled by the immediacy of physical contact with strangers or even casual acquaintances. Here, declining a kiss can come off as a bit cold, so it's best to just go with it, in my opinion. And when you're done, you better get ready to talk close, and there might be some touching too. It was hard for me coming from a place where you usually stand 3 or 4 feet apart when you're in conversation. Touch me and you lose your fingers. There, I guarded my personal space more rigidly, especially with strangers. Americans may instinctively step backwards during conversations. I think I still do it sometimes. It probably reads as disinterest or aloofness, but sometimes habits do die hard. I still struggle with crowded public spaces, markets, bars.
Man, yeah. Asia's like that too. It's like everything is so crowded, and like you just have to kind of go with it and like kind of be a sardine with it and flow with it.
You gotta disassociate if you're me and just
you can't take but the thing, like especially in Japan, people were not rude, so it doesn't feel like this guy's being an asshole because he's like pushing me and like shoving in my space.
Well, and you also don't feel like, I started to feel like I was a burden, but then I was like, wait, this is just how it is.
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah, as long as you're not being rude.
Yeah. And public transit often involve a lot of close physical proximity, and Spaniards are generally unfazed by it. My daughter always complains about people suddenly shoving it in front of her at the grocery store. She's used to people asking or at least signaling with body language that
me.
they need you to move. Where I'm from, we like our personal bubbles in public. We definitely apologize for making accidental contact. And for a long time, I actually avoided crowded places as much as possible. Here, people don't really apologize for minor bumps or jostles. It might feel rude to Americans, but on a crowded train or bus, are apologies really that necessary? If you think driving in Spain is just like driving in the US, but with different road signs, you need to buckle up, because your first roundabout will prove you absolutely wrong. So think about this. At a 4-way stop, everyone stops first, and then they follow certain rules. First vehicle to stop at the intersection goes first. The vehicle on the right has the right of way. If cars are directly across from each other and arrive simultaneously, the car going straight or turning right has the right of way, while the other turning left must yield. This often turns into a you go, no, you go kind of situation because
Man, here in LA, people are just like, they don't even stop. They're just like, I'm just going to take this in
If
front of
you're
everyone.
lucky, they stop.
Yeah.
folks don't actually follow the rules. But here at a rotunda, the rules are very different. Traffic inside the roundabout always has the right of way. Incoming cars must yield. If entering, you have to wait for a gap. There's no taking turns like at a four-way stop. You merge when it's
It sounds
safe.
like double Dutch.
If exiting soon, you stay in the right lane. Otherwise, stay in
Sounds
the
so
inner lanes
confusing.
so that you can go further in the roundabout. Larger vehicles may get priority over you.
I have a
Even if you
question.
technically
I have a question for you Europeans in your roundabouts. If you see a gap and you're like, oop, I can crawl in there and, fill that, will the car behind you, like the one that would be behind you once you're in the actual roundabout, are they going to slow down a little as they see you getting in, or are they kind of like, no, fuck off, I'm gonna make sure you don't get in? Because here, that's what they would do.
Yeah.
They'd be like, nope, you're not getting in front of me.
Yeah.
have the right of way, giving them space is expected. I still have to get my driver's license here from the passenger seat. Rotundas are wild, especially when there's traffic. Based on feedback from my Facebook group on getting a driver's license here, the roundabout is where most people fail. That and crosswalks. In cities, pedestrians have the right of way. At least in theory, they often step confidently into the crosswalks, expecting the cars to stop. But in reality, some drivers brake at the last second, making street crossings a very interesting experience. Spanish drivers don't believe in personal space either. I noticed that there's a lot of tailgating at high speeds, and it's not because they're mad at you or because they want to be close. They're telling you to get
That sounds
over.
dangerous.
This drives my husband nuts because he won't speed. Speaking of lanes, the left lane is strictly for passing. Sit there too
That's
long.
technically what's
you're gonna
supposed to
get
happen here
honks, You're
too,
going to
but-
get flashing lights and maybe a few words if you're there extra long. Unlike in the US, where police cars are going to lurk behind the bush with their radar guns, Spain prefers this high-tech approach where speed cameras are everywhere and they're marked by these signs that say control de velocidad. You won't get pulled over,
They'll
but
ticket you.
check your mailbox in a
Hell
week.
no.
That's when you're
That is
tickled.
my biggest fear driving out here is they're going to start using, not like red light cameras because we already have that.
Ticket cameras.
But yeah, like speed cameras on
Well,
the
honestly, that
freeway.
would make people drive better.
No,
like-
it wouldn't. Be real.
If they're getting sent tickets all the time,
Yeah.
they will.
They'd be more calculated where they
Yeah.
speed. Yeah.
Driving in Spain takes some adjusting, but once you get the hang of it, I think it's actually pretty smooth. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I can't use my international permit here anymore because I'm a resident, and I've been putting off preparing for my exams. I don't have an excuse for it. I'm just putting them off. One of my favorite things here is the sales tax, IVA. Imagine this, you walk into a store, you pick up an item that says $9.99, and when you get to the register, you actually pay $9.99. There was no mental math, no surprise fees. You just had to pay the exact amount on the price tag.
That'd be nice.
It's
That's what I
shocking.
liked about.
know.
Yeah,
If you're American, you're used to doing that mental math to figure out the
Tax.
actual cost of things. The grocery store was always a mess for me to calculate because some items are taxed when others aren't. And then Orlando used to love doing a fraction of a percent. So here, when you see the price of something, that's what it will cost you. Because
California sales tax is insane.
Insane.
It sucks. It
Doesn't-
shouldn't be a thing.
There is a handful of places here, like states that don't have sales tax, so that's
Yeah,
nice.
Oregon is one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I can think of right now. There's
Yeah.
I think it's like less than 5 states, to be honest.
the tax is already in the. Okay, let's talk about education, because if you're American, you'll grow up thinking that college will most likely equal debt, period. You accept it as a cost for a good life, and that's just how things work. Then you move to Europe and you find out that people are getting full-on degrees for the price of an American semester's worth of overpriced book. I mean, sure, tuition varies by country, but public universities in places like Spain or Germany or France can cost as little as a couple $1,000s per year. Some places are basically free, and you don't have to sell your kidney. I had another joke for this spot, but my daughter told me to take it out. Meanwhile, in the U.S., people are out here paying 6 figures for a
She's
degree
looking out.
in media studies while working 3 jobs and eating instant
Yeah.
ramen like it's a food group. Actually, I love instant ramen with umami spices and an egg or two. And I'm not gonna lie, but my student loan may have me back on instant ramen. At least the eggs here aren't expensive like in the States. My income-driven student loan
The
repayment renewal. On the
silver
bright
lining.
side, I still have a few months to figure things out. I still owe $50,000 on my student loan that was for about $48,000. I've been making payments on the loan, but
Girl,
they're not big
if you
enough.
don't
So tell
freaking
me,
get
have you
that-
ever experienced culture shock in another country? Tell me your stories in the comments. And if you can do me a quick favor, watch this video next. Okay, bye.
Yeah, I'll put her thing, Osterico. I'll put it down in the description.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
no. I understand the differences. It's like, especially, like I would take personal a little bit the ones of like bumping and not saying like excuse me or like sorry, or the just going in front of you and grabbing something, things like that. They do.
I'd be like, they know I'm American. They're
They-
doing this on purpose.
But I think in the end of the day, I have to realize they're not trying to be rude. It's just
They're
like a culture thing.
yeah. Well, thank you for watching.
Yep. Leave your
So-
opinions down below, please, and like, subscribe, and please jump over to our vlog channel. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you.